Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Parent, and this is the our podcast is driving the business of science. And what we do is we try to have a podcast that talks about science in general for the life science world, pharmaceutical, biotech, med device. And I run into a lot of interesting people over the course of working in this field. Not necessarily everybody is a scientist or doing drug development, but we have a lot of things on the business side of the pharmaceutical world. So today I wanted to have a guest with me. His name is Roy Strunin. He is the director of marketing and runs his own company called BrandUp Strategy. And we actually use BrandUp Strategy for our marketing at Court Square. So I thought it would be good for us to talk because I think our backstory and where we are today from where we started is a great story. And I thought that would be good to hear from Roy. So let me give you a little bit of background on Court Square. Court Square is a managed service firm. We manage IT infrastructure for life science companies, pharmaceutical, biotech, med device. We also have a system called RegDocs 365, which is a content repository that hosts any type of clinical and regulatory content. Typically, we start out with the TMF for clinical trials, and then the EDM for the submission processing work that companies will do. Or we'll have a thing called Life Science Launchpad, which is a module that helps startup companies really get off the ground right and to grow a company and scale a company. With that being said, I'd love to talk to Roy, and let's get some background from Roy. Roy, turn it over to you.
Keith, it's as always, as we speak quite often, it's great to talk to you. So, a little bit of background on myself. I've been in business to business marketing for almost my entire career. And about 20 years ago, I was working for a large company that did electrical safety testing for medical devices. And other areas of the company did extractables and leachables testing, materials testing around medical devices in the pharmaceutical world. And I became very enamored by the life science world. While the company tested everything from light bulbs to wind turbines, there's something special about everyone who's involved in life science. Though you may be a small cog in a big process, but everyone feels that we're working towards improving patient outcomes. And I've found that to be a great world to work in, and I've been there ever since. About 6 years ago, we started our agency, BrandUp Strategy, which is a niche marketing agency, and we work exclusively with life science companies. We help companies build awareness and generate qualified sales leads.
So it's interesting. I want to go to talk a little bit about how we met and how where we are today together, because I think it's important for people to note. I met Roy actually through a partner company. I met a company. We were looking for a company to do desktop support because we typically don't do desktop support. Sometimes we do, but for the most part, we didn't. And I always looked for different companies that were at different shows, and I would go to technology shows. And I met this one company that I thought was a good desktop support partner company. And in working with that company, I was able to meet Roy. Roy was actually a working on their marketing and running their marketing for that company. And they were a technology company. They weren't really focused on life science. So it was interesting that when I spoke with Roy, he had a life science background, and I thought it was good. So I thought he saw something different in the way we were doing things, and I thought we put some stuff together. Tell us a little bit about the difference between a technology company, Roy, versus working with a company that's technology based, but really is more focused in on the life science vertical.
So when I started at that company, I was brought on mostly because of my life science background. I've also had some technology background before I got into life science, and they introduced me to Keith as one of their partners. And while the company really got the technology piece of it, they did not get the life science piece of it. And there's a certain ethos to the whole life science community of what we do and how we do things. In addition to all the regulatory specific and difficult regulatory hurdles that need to be overcome to bring something to market in life science. Excuse me. So yeah, I got it. Keith understood where we were trying to get to. The company was a little mired a bit much in the technology side, and the transition did not work well for them. But I stayed in touch with Keith, and when I left there and moved to Florida, where I am now, I reached out to Keith, and we've been working together almost since that time. So the difference I see between a standard technology or product company is the life science is all built around the regulatory requirements. So if you have software, that software either helps people, it meets the requirements, it doesn't meet the requirements, or if you build a product, that product has certain specs, and most products need to have safety testing, so a light bulb will be tested that it doesn't explode or burn or something like that. But for life science, the development of the product is equally as important as the post market once it's on the market, because you can't just bring a pharmaceutical to the FDA and say, I, can we sell this? It is every step from the preclinical, from the R&D to the preclinical to the clinical, that needs to be done in a regulatory compliant manner. So I think that is one of the big differentiators is that people in medical device and pharmaceuticals are always looking towards meeting regulatory requirements at every step of the development and the marketing and the sales and the post-market process.
Now you've focused your efforts now typically on companies that are working in the pharma services or the life sciences market. Tell us a little bit about that and what got you into wanting to stay focused in that area.
So most of our clients are people like Court Square that provide services into the life science, and he has specialized IT services. There's companies that do product testing, quality management systems, and yeah, I've first of all, from a marketing and sales point of view, there's always something nice about the regulatory world because they have to do it. People need that in order to get to the next step. So there's that is a driver for people, for us to sell our services, for Keith to sell his services, and I think it's just it's a great atmosphere in the life science group, and there's so many pieces that go into components, not just physical components, but processes that go into developing a pharmaceutical or a medical device. So there's plenty of opportunity out there. While it seems sort of niche, it is a huge world with a lot of requirements.
Well, you know what I don't think people realize, and when we're talking about the business of science, as a marketer and as we go out to the market, because I work with Roy very closely as we go out to the market with some of our campaigns, some of the ideas I come up with, and how we try to put those out there. One of the things that people don't realize is it's almost its own language in the life science world. Everybody's got acronyms, and there's acronyms for everything. IT has its own acronyms. The life science world has its own acronyms. But it's really interesting when you talk to companies in a particular vertical, and they're slightly different between med device versus small molecule versus large molecule. So the biotech market and the pharmaceutical market are slightly different when you're looking at what you talk about and how you deal with things. They all have different acronyms when they deal with, the different groups within the FDA that they work with. So those little nuances are very important when you're thinking about marketing and you're thinking about putting something out. And a lot of times when I deal with technology companies, and Roy's going to laugh at this because I always talk about this. It's every partner that I've ever worked with on a technology side always talks about HIPAA, and they always talk about healthcare. And the reality is the healthcare market is a really different market than the life science market. When you're thinking about healthcare and HIPAA, those are typically around patient records, patient data that's going to be held by a hospital or hospital management systems. And what happens is in the life science market, because we're dealing with clinical trial data, we're dealing with patient safety data, and it's really safety data that's really important. That data integrity around the data that gets captured around patients and things like that. Yeah, we have HIPAA issues that we have to deal with, but the reality is most of the clinical trials that we do are going to be blinded when you're looking at some of the data that's out there. and some of those kind of work. So I think I find it really interesting when people talk, technology companies talk about life science. The first thing they talk about is healthcare. Your thoughts on that, Roy?
Yeah, so interesting that I have my connection to healthcare professionally is pretty minimal. The life science world and most of what my clients do is all about the pre-market. It's it's not the we're a light year before the first patient sees any drug or pharmaceutical, about the development and testing, even the clinical trials. But it's all before it goes to market, and so it's a whole world of product development rather than product sales. Like you might have in the hospital, uh, how a healthcare system uses information stuff. This is all, you know, way before it's the bottom of the iceberg before it gets anywhere near the patient.
Well, it's also funny that I was just thinking something that we've run into a few times because I've referred BrandUp Strategy to a number of companies because we do such a good job in the life science world right now, and I think that the more companies that I work with, the more that I'd like to keep working in the circle of companies that I work with together. That little ecosystem that you kind of build around your own company. One of the things that I find fascinating within this industry is that there's a lot of people that come out of the industry that start their own company, whether it's a consulting firm or they do a CRO or they do this and that. And it's just a lot of interesting people that come out of of the industry, and they think, they start a business and they think that it's going to be, it's easy to run a business after you've been at a large pharma company or something like that. But then they get into it and they don't realize how tough it is to get your point across because they're used to talking in scientific jargon and some of the things that they do. Um, how about any of those kind of things, Roy? Do you run into that a lot?
Yeah, it's interesting. In almost all my clients, uh, yeah, they used to say marketing for dummies, but I don't deal with any dummies. None of my clients are dummies. But they're all really smart people, but they're not marketers. People, and we see a lot of these early stage pharma biotech companies are started by two or three scientists, PhDs, and something, and they really know their stuff, uh, but there's a big difference between being a scientist and being a business person. Keith, has the one of the unique qualities of understanding both the market, the sales, as well as the products that he offers. So I find that a lot of clients, they're so involved in in the thing that I tell Keith all the time. He's heard 1,000 times. Don't tell me about your grass seed. Tell me about my lawn. People are always so involved in. I spent 20 years developing this molecule, uh, but the people who are looking to buy it don't really care how long you spent doing it. They don't care how you did it. They want to know what's it going to do for them. And with all the solutions, with all the Core Square solutions, it's not a question of how we developed it, but it's a question of people have a business issue. So I say we're not here to create marketing activities. We're here to create business outcomes. So people who are trying to sell an AI solution to have a business problem, and they don't need to know how the software is baked and how the sausage is made. They want to know how's it going to help them get the product to market faster, reduce overhead, reduce costs, save time, allow their staff of expert clinical people to do other things that are that are not monotonous paperwork. So you're exactly right that people have to understand that there's in order to sell, you need to have a value proposition. You need to understand the issues, pains, and drivers of the market rather than being able to just talk about your product.
What are some of the different companies that you've been able to work with without naming names, but the types of work that they've done that you help out from a marketing perspective?
So I guess I could throw in a name or two that no one would
You
get
can throw
upset
as many
about.
names as you want. This is a podcast. We don't care.
So, for example, another client that I have that's a fantastic company is called Westpac. and they do package testing for pharmaceutical and medical devices. And there's all sorts of requirements that you want to make sure that the drug that you develop in Massachusetts it has to go in an airplane and end up in Florida, so it doesn't freeze in Massachusetts or just boil over, whatever it happens when it gets to Florida. So there's all the packaging around it. There's companies that do all sorts of consulting with biostatisticians and helping people understand the data and and improving processes and ensuring compliance for all the. I mean, there's 1,000 pieces of the checklist to get a device to market. So there's companies all along that development route that help out by providing third-party testing, third-party review, certifications, and consulting to, quality systems. Without a quality system, you're just basically stopped dead in the water with the pharmaceutical company.
So it's interesting. As Roy said, when he started six plus years ago, I was one of his first customers. And when we got together, started doing things were a lot different back then. We were doing a lot more, and for our perspective, we were doing a lot more shows. And my biggest marketing effort was doing a lot of shows. But I will say over time, and I think COVID hit us a lot with how we looked at different things. Tell us a little bit about how our marketing has changed over the last 6 years and what we're seeing in the market now from a perspective of marketing, getting to people to talk to them, because the life science market has historically been one that's a very closed market. It's very tough to get in the front door to try to market any kind of services to the life science market. Tell us how we've talked, and you and I have worked it out over the years, how we've changed our approach to things.
Sure. So, COVID really changed the marketing world in a big way. A lot of people were just used to going to a trade show, 2 or 3 trade shows a year, meeting their prospects, and that was their best sales pipeline piece. COVID changed that because everyone stopped, and we needed to take on a lot more digital marketing. And that's actually when Keith and I started working together, just around the beginning of COVID. Um, and so we got a lot more involved in digital marketing. And marketing has 5,000 tools, and there's always something different to do. And sometimes you need to tinker with it. How much effort we put into this versus that. But we've tried a lot of things. Some have worked better than others. But we're always out there. And really, when you're selling something like IT solutions or consulting, excuse me, things that are services, not products, the first thing you need to do is build awareness, build thought leadership, and then have a message that resonates with the people and connect with the people. So we've spent a lot of time building our database. We do email campaigns that are targeted. We do a lot of social media, particularly LinkedIn. We're involved in groups within LinkedIn that target different areas of clinical research. We send out messages, and we Keith speaks at conferences continuously. So you presenting that thought leadership both online and offline, for example, through these podcasts, through our newsletters, through collateral, through our website, reaching out to people. Those are all things that that have evolved and are continuously evolving, continuously changing and evolving in the marketing world. But I think we've had a lot of good winners, a few dogs, but you got to kiss a lot of frogs along the way. And but I think overall we've I feel that we go places and people know who we are already. So that's like to me a measure of success when you go to a show and people are like, yeah, I see you guys, or I saw Keith's podcast. That's
I love that.
that goes a
Whenever
way.
somebody says that, I love that they've recognized what we've done or they've seen something we've done. And you never know who's going to be looking at different things. Sometimes it's somebody looking for something very specific. Just this past year, we've really embraced the podcast. This whole structure that we're doing right now, I think is a great way for me to basically talk to people about what we do, but also talk to the other people that we work with. And I think that's great. I think to let people know what you guys do at BrandUp Strategy for us and how we go out there and we do that. I'm hoping that this is going to help people see that there is a difference in what we're doing in the life science world, and maybe some of the other companies that we work with will give you a call and they can work with that. I do believe that in this world, in what we do, things have evolved over time. I'm still a face-to-face type person. I still like to shake hands, go out there and meet people. So I do a lot of events. I do a lot of things that I do that. But I had to embrace the digital world a lot more, which I never really did that much before. We did a lot of other things. Um, Being a computer guy, you'd think I would have embraced everything like that. But it was just one of those things where I still don't like the virtual trade shows or things like that because I think that's too impersonal. And I'm very glad that we're able to get back to in-person meetings and stuff like that because then you can really talk about different things. I think one of the strategies that we've taken, and I'm really happy with it, is Roy will work with me on a regular basis to put together what we call use cases and just some of the solutions that we've worked on with some of our customers because I think to Roy's point earlier when he talked about don't tell me about your grass seed, tell me about what my lawn. You know, people don't want to hear about what you're selling. They don't want to hear about what we do. They want to hear about what we can do to help them and what their solution, what's a solution to help them in their what they have a problem. How can we help to solve that problem? So we look at it that way to say, hey, here's something we've done. Here's how it started. Here's how it worked out. And can you see yourself in that particular solution? I know that Roy brought up AI before, and I think that's a huge thing that I look at as AI is this nebulous thing out there that everybody's trying to figure it out and trying to do stuff. I look at it one direct way. What's a way of using AI to solve a particular problem? And to Roy's point, we're using it to solve. I try to figure out what are the most manual basis things that you guys are doing out there, and how can we use AI to help get your time back from doing that stuff and doing the stuff that your minds are working on. Like Roy said, there's nobody in this market we're not dummies out there. There's a lot of people that have they're amazing smart, but to waste their time doing manual things that they shouldn't just do, to me, that's a tremendous waste of intellectual brain power. And I'd rather see them use the computer to do that and use their brain power for helping to do new drugs and help to put those drugs out there because inevitably everything that we're helping our customers do in the industry helps people, helps patients, helps help society in general. So I look at that as we're doing a huge service by helping them work faster and getting things out the door. Roy,
Yeah, you mentioned the difference between digital marketing and face-to-face marketing. And if you're selling a widget, a mouse for a computer, then you may never need to speak to the person. But no one's going to buy a solution like Square solution without a human connection. So what the digital marketing is the top of the funnel. We're trying to build awareness, get people in, but it's all trying to drive people to conversations with Keith or the sales team or someone else on the team to make that connection. Because that's the only way things get sold, which is trying to broaden that net through digital marketing, reaching out to more people to get to the ones that are ready to buy something.
absolutely. So as we're coming up on time, Roy, any last thoughts about marketing to life science companies or working with us, working with the other life science companies that you work with? Let's hear
it. So I always say that marketing is about four things: getting the right message to the right people at the right time and engaging them. So I tell clients all the time, you need to have a value proposition that is significant and defensible. You need to be doing something different. So that's getting the right message, finding the right people. There's people who are influencers, people who are buyers. But if you're not getting your message to the right people in the company, they might not be the people who are using your software. They may be the management level who's making those sort of process decisions. So you have to get the right message, the right people, the right time. If someone's not looking to buy something, it's good to build awareness, but you're not going to sell someone a car if they're not in the market for a car. And then interacting with them. So it's not just enough to throw it out there in front of them. You need to build the connection between on a digital marketing side between Court Square Group and the prospect, or between Keith and the prospect. Yeah, that is the way that all marketing needs to move to support sales. And if marketing is not supporting sales, then we're not doing our job, I guess.
Well, Roy, I want to thank you very much. I will say to everybody out there, um, look up BrandUp Strategy, give Roy a call. It has been a pleasure to work with BrandUp Strategy. Both Roy and Lisa are a fantastic team, and all the other companies, the people that they bring in to work on our, whether it's wording of articles, whether it's the graphics and some of our things that we put together. Um, we have a great time with BrandUp. So by all means, everybody give BrandUp Strategy a call. And Roy, thank you very much for your time today, putting this together. And usually he's behind the scenes setting these things up. So it's unusual for him to be in front of the camera today, talking to people and talking on screen. So I'm glad to see you. Glad to see you out from behind the screen here today.
Keith, thank you for the opportunity today to be on the podcast, and thank you for the years of collaboration and partnership. Yeah, it's been fantastic. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Take care.